All right, to get the seal in there, I'm going to grease the outside so that it makes it easy to slide in. I'm going to use this PVC coupler, which happens to be about the right size. I think it's, 2-inch. So we'll use that to hammer that in and be as even as possible so we don't damage the seal, which could cause it to leak. And it goes in this side. This side is going to face out. I actually can't use this now because it's a little larger than the seal and it's hitting this lip. So, switch to this guy. Alright, it's in all the way. I want to put some grease on the seal itself. So I'm going to slide the axles back in. There's lubrication there and it creates a nice good seal. By the way, I think these seals, I got these seals from Rock Auto. Might have got them from O'Reilly's. Pretty sure Rock Auto. Here's the part number 8695S. They're Federal Mogul. Alright, so I got the gaskets for the third member. I'm going to go ahead and install that. If you're going to do Felpro, the gaskets are kind of on the thin side, so I always do 2. I'm going to basically double coat these gaskets with black silicone, throw them on, and then drop the third member in. So these 2 posts are closest together, so that's the first place to start. So that's going to go on there either like this. Let's see if it goes on the other way. Nope, doesn't align here and here. Okay, so there is only one way. So this old Chilton manual, I think I got it. It was in a car that I'd bought years ago. If you ever find any of these at like a swap meet, no matter how tore up and beat up it is, like this one, some pages are missing at the beginning and the end, the cover's gone. But if you could get it at a decent price, you don't have to worry about getting your dirty fingers all over it, and these things have everything in them. So like for example, we're in the differential section. Rear axle says this is the tightening reference. Here's the 8 3/4. We got the carrier to axle housing bolt nuts, 45 foot-pounds. So I normally just tighten these guys down and don't worry about it, but I'll go ahead and put the torque wrench on it and tighten those to 45 foot-pounds. The silicone's on there, we're letting it tack up. I've got all the nuts run down and everything, but we'll go down and we'll torque them. So whenever you're torquing anything down, do not torque it down to spec first round. You want to go lighter so that you snug everything down evenly. So we're looking for 45 foot-pounds. So I'm going to back it off to like, let's go with 25 foot-pounds. Okay, now if we've got everything snug, just like tightening a head, you want to crisscross back and forth, and then just in case you missed one, you want to go all the way around. Now I'm going to run it up to 45. This just locks it. It is day 3 working on the station wagon. I would say progress is good. It shouldn't take this long to swap a rear end out, but you know, we're going through the 8 3/4 and you know, trying to make it look halfway decent. I'm not getting all crazy with restoration type stuff. You know, if I was, I would be probably powder coating everything, but I want to keep the cost down. And I don't want to put bare metal stuff because it's just going to rust and look like crap. So we're cleaning everything and we're painting everything. That's what's taking the most time. And just real quick, I'm just going to show you the rear end and the parts we've got, where we're at. So there's the 8 3/4. We got the third member in. We've got a pinion snubber on it. We've got the rear brake hose on, the steel brake lines on, the vent, the distribution block. We've got our drums painted, and there's one of the backing plates painted. We got our spring kit, and we've got our brake shoes. So the wheel cylinders that came out of the original 11-inch backing plate have a 5/16 bolt that hold them in. These have a 1/4-20, so I was kind of skeptical as to whether these actually going to fit or not. But I took that one out and I put it in there, and it seems to fit okay. So I think we'll be okay. Anyway, the wheel cylinders are WC 78734. The spring kit is H7250. It's going to be really interesting to see if these actually fit or not, or they work or not, because they look very much like the 10-inch brake stuff. And I'll do a comparison later to see if these springs are longer than the 10-inch brakes. And then we got our brake shoes. They're 11-inch shoes. Part number wise, it looks like, I don't know if it's just 335. Oh, it looks like part number is 335. All right. Maybe a BB 335. And here we got the U-bolt plates that, I guess you could call them shock plates, U-bolt plates, I don't know. They go on the bottom of the leaf springs. Probably gonna try to soak those a little longer. We got the other backing plate we'll get out of there, and a bunch of parts. So I also got to get these e-brake arms off of here. Take those off, get those soaking and cleaned up.
Tree, the last weekend of summer, the empire at our fingertips, the autumn to discover. If I would have had the worthiness to be the perfect.
All right, this is a little tight going over the studs. I don't want to damage the threads, so I'm going to open these up just a hair more. And that's that. But let me point something out to you. Just in case you have the backing plates off and you forget which side they came from, When these things are stamped, they're basically symmetrical. They're exactly the same. They can go on the left side or the right side, except they do put a hole for the e-brake. So let me show you. So we can see that's the front of the rear end. We know this is the passenger side because the e-brake cables come from the front of the rear end, and only the front has this hole drilled. There's no hole on this side. So they're exactly the same. Again, they're exactly the same on both sides, except once they put this hole in there, that makes this the passenger side. All right, I'm gonna put the axle back in. Now, one thing you want to do is have tons of grease in here, because I feel like the grease that the shop put the bearings on, which, you know, they did put grease on it, and I'm sure it's enough, but once that sort of starts to migrate out, you know, it's like I don't want to leave any cavity for it to migrate out of. So I'd rather have just tons of grease all over the place so that it kind of holds the grease that's in the bearings in place. All right. So there's a gasket between the backing plate and the housing, which is in there. The original one's still good. The gasket that goes here between the flange and the backing plate is a foam one, and I don't have it, and I don't want to wait. I don't want to order one and wait for it. I want to get this done. I don't really think it does a whole lot. I mean, its purpose is to keep any kind of brake dust from getting inside of here, but it's a pretty tight seal between this. We're going to tighten it up. I don't think you're going to get dust in there. So, you know, maybe 100 years from now, you might prove me wrong, and I will have to retract that statement. Okay. I still have the original studs in here. These are right-hand thread studs. So I know that this belongs to the right-hand side of the housing. On 8 3/4 rear ends, the axle lengths are usually the same. I don't really know I don't really know if there's any that aren't the same, but in all the cars and stuff, the axles are the exact same length. So you can put the left side on the right and the right on the left. It wouldn't really matter. Other than, in my case, my studs. These are right-hand studs. I want to keep these on the right-hand side. Also, because I'm running roller bearings, I have the adjuster here, and that is on the passenger side. So we're going to go ahead and make sure we put the axle back in the side it came out of. And I also want to put grease in these splines. All right. Pretty easy. You see the axle just hit the third member. You just kind of lift it and wiggle it around, get it to engage, and then we turn the flange here to line up with the studs. And there we have it. All right, so that axle's in. I'm gonna go ahead and put the wheel cylinders in as well. Since the rear end is out of the car, it's easy to get to both sides and stuff rather than having to crawl underneath in the back side. I did want to spray some paint over it, so I'm gonna mask it off, mask the rubber boots off and stuff, and then spray paint it just so we have a little bit of coating on there. That we'll get those mounted. I'm not gonna bother putting all the hardware and stuff like that in the car just yet. I'm gonna do that after we get the rear end into the car. All right, we got to get this arm off for the emergency brakes. Get that thing soaking. Pretty straightforward. You have to spread this, I don't know what you would call it. It's basically like a U-shaped clip that is just squished on to this pin. All right, well, that horseshoe clip went flying, lost it. Pretty straightforward. I'm just gonna put some tape around the boots so that I don't get paint on them. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and spray these. I'm not really too concerned about getting paint on all this stuff. Not a big deal to me. By the way, the paint I'm using on all these parts is caliper paint. Super color caliper paint. This one is caliper black. All right, let's talk drop blocks real quick. So I'm gonna put a 2-inch drop on the wagon. Front's easy, just torsion bars, just loosen the bolt. That'll bring the front down on the back. We're basically gonna put a drop block, which is a spacer between the leaf spring and the housing of the rear end. I'm just gonna bring the car down. I got it at O'Reilly's 735-6049. Now, the pin that's on here is too big for the hole that's on the leaf spring perch that's welded to the rear end. So what I always do is I take a file and I file this guy down, just kind of hit it a bunch of times, check it, hit it some more, check it, till it fits and goes in through the hole. So I have some old drop blocks here. I've already filed down. I'm gonna put those in the car. I bought this set as just a replacement in case these ever go away. You know, the U-bolts. Looks like part number 13-1111A. Put it this way. Basically, it's 1/2-inch thread, 3 3 1/8 diameter. Basically, the whole diameter here, and then the length is like 10 1/4. So these are really tall, but you got to realize, you know, compared to the factory U-bolt. But what you have to realize is you're adding a 2-inch block to this, so it really needs to be at least 2 inches taller. So netting, it's going to be a little bit hanging down a little bit, but that's okay. If you don't like that, you could always cut these off. It's not going to hurt anything to leave these a little bit long, so we're going to leave them. Can't wait. I love my B bodies lowered. I love all my Mopars lowered, but the B bodies just look especially sinister when they're lowered. So I'm kind of excited to see how the wagon looks, see what its profile looks like. It should be pretty killer. Okay, so there's your end play. Now, if you notice, I didn't put this locker in originally. I used the regular nuts to tighten everything down. We got the other side in, tightened in all the way. Now what we have to do is we have to adjust how much end play we have here. So what I do is use a screwdriver and knock this guy tight. It's less, and keep going. almost gone. Okay, so there's all the end play is gone, right? Now you're gonna back it off a little bit because you don't want this too tight. It's kind of like the front. I'll basically snug the nut down so all the end play is gone, and then just back it off a little bit. So if we were to put the lock on, it would land, it's kind of in the middle of that crown right there. So if we backed it up to there, there's still hardly any end play. I think I'm gonna back it off one more groove. Right there. Still not any end play. The manual says 8 to 18 thousandths. This isn't the sketchiest thing I've ever done, but it's kind of close. Not exactly secure. I have this on a jack stand to get it up to this height, and then I have it on the edge of the axle. So all the way in, we got 0. We pull it out. We've got about 11 thousandths end play. And the spec is 8 to 18 thousandths. So I'm going to go ahead and roll with that, because one move in the groove it's basically a big jump. We don't have fine incremental adjustments here. What I did, I basically tightened it all the way up and then loosened it to back it out. It ended up being about 2 grooves, I think, if I remember right. Checked it with the dial indicator. We got 11 thousandths end play, well within our 8 to 18 thousandths spec. Tighten this guy down. And again, this is just if you have roller bearings, which are the factory style bearings, which are superior to the green round bearings, which are ball bearings. So I know it's easier because all of this stuff goes away with the green bearings. There's basically no adjustment. You just slap them in, you're done. You let the factory decide, what the end play is. But I'm telling you, under side load, the roller bearings are much better than the ball bearings. And let me show you why. All about surface area. All right, so this isn't going to be very accurate, but this will kind of give you the idea. This is your ball bearing, and this is the outer race that it sits in and the inner race that it sits in. The contact area is very small, as so. This would be like the side view of the bearing, okay? The roller bearing would basically be like this. It's like a dowel pin, and then your inner race would be here, and your outer race would be here, and you could see how much more surface contact that you have versus a ball bearing. So ball bearing surface contact, roller bearing surface contact. This is especially better for side loads, or for side loading. This would be the other roller bearing on the upper side. Of course, there would be a bunch of bearings all the way around the circle. Let's see if we can give some three-dimensionality to it, which probably not going to be very well. I'm not exactly an artist, guys. That's why I have a YouTube channel. But anyway, you get the idea. You can see the amount of surface contact you're going to have with a roller bearing versus the surface contact you have with a ball bearing, which is just a ball, a sphere. You only got these tiny areas here. So this is much better for side loading. If you're going to do a road course car, you want to have roller bearings. But also, if you want it to last forever, go with roller bearings. These ball bearings, and I've heard of green bearings wiping out pretty much low mileage. So they're kind of, they're simple, but for the amount of money you're paying for these things, these are actually a lot cheaper. I'll have to look up to see what I paid for my bearings, but way cheaper than these and way stronger than that. I'm going to go ahead and pull the Zerk fitting off. This is a 932 socket, which is working, which is nice, because I think these things are typically metric nowadays. But, I mean, if it was factory, it's usually like a 5/16 that'll fit on there. 5/16 doesn't fit this, but anyway, 932 works. Now we got it out of the way. We're gonna get the brake line in here. This is gonna be fun because you can see the bind that it's in. These things are not perfect, as you can see. You gotta keep that in mind. So we're gonna have to put some tweaks in this area. Get it to line up properly. Fitting back in. So I wanted to show the differences between the old wheel cylinder and the new one. One thing that kind of made me concerned when initially getting these is I know the bolts to the original one for the 11-inch brakes was a 5/16. And I thought, man, these are 1/4-20. So it's much smaller, and I thought, well, maybe this shape is different or something. But you know, and I thought maybe this is for a 10-inch brake and this is 11. But the overall width is about the same. Looks to be the same. And actually, this shape that goes through the hole of the backing plate is actually the same. So, and even though these are smaller bolts, once it's bolted in, the shape kind of holds it in place, so the smaller bolts are not an issue like I thought they might be. Basically, your Zerk fitting is going to be facing straight up, and then the bottom is going to be where your brake line is going to go into. So this goes into the hole like so. And you see the shape, and the shape of the wheel cylinder is exactly the same. So put these guys in. Again, I'm just pulling the Zerk fitting out just to get it out of the way so we can get the brake line on. The other side we had to compress it. This side we got to stretch it out a little bit. Luckily, it's pretty easy to bend. I'm going to lower the rear end down onto the drop blocks. Okay, something I still have to put in is these shims. The drop kit came with 2-degree shims, and if this were a 4-wheel drive truck, let's say, and you lifted it, the pinion would have to go up farther, so you would be putting in shims that are thicker on the front, shallow on the back. Since we're going up higher, it's going to be the opposite, because now the pinion's going to be up high like this, where the drive shaft's kind of coming up towards it. So we're going to put the shim in this way to kind of level it out. As far as which end, I think the pin on the leaf spring is the tallest, so I think it's better to put it below the drop block, like that. To be honest, I've never actually used the shims before, because back in the day, they never bothered putting those shims in the kit. So this will be my first time using it. So I had blocks on my old 69 Roadrunner, no shims. And I have blocks on the Coronet with no shims. But I always did kind of feel like the pinion angle is wrong, you know? And maybe it's putting the drive shaft in a bind. Never had anything go wrong.